Hey, Transformers, welcome back to Wine About Your Data. And we have a special episode today, and I have a new co-host with me. And so I'm excited to introduce you to her, which many of you probably already know. But first up, before we launch into all the things about Wine About Your Data and what topic we're going to do, Amanda, welcome. Cheers to coming on the episode.
Thanks, Danae. I'm thrilled to be here.
All right. Well, what wine do we have first?
Yes, because it's my first episode, I wanted to bring my favorite wine with us. So this is Naomi, a Pinot Noir, and it's from California. So right now it is my favorite go-to wine. It's a beautiful red, full body.
Awesome. Well, we know about your wine and how much you love that and this specific wine. Tell us a little bit more about you and just so we can make sure everybody knows who you are, because you're the president and founder of TCG.
Well, you kind of stole my thunder, but yes, I'm the president and founder at Transform Consulting Group. So I'm excited to be here and excited about this concept that we have of a podcast to talk about data, to give you one less thing to whine about.
That's right.
So we could just share some of our tips and hopefully make data feel less intimidating and give our transformers more resources and tools in their toolbox.
Oh, I love it. Well, once again, grab your coffee or your wine, whatever your choice of drink is, and get ready here for this episode. Just a little recap here. For our last episode, we talked about data access. So we're doing this whole data-informed culture, which obviously you helped create this framework several years ago. And so we talked about data access. And then today we have a new topic. So maybe just real briefly, Amanda, could you just give me a little insight into data access, exactly what it was?
Yeah, absolutely. So data access is really just making sure that everybody in the organization has access to the data that they need and should have access to in the time that they need it. A lot of organizations, you might have one person and they can be like a gatekeeper, or files are not organized or saved in a way that's accessible. And so if we want our team and organizations to be data informed, they need to have access to data in a timely manner to make those decisions.
Yep. And so we learned all about that. Feel free to jump back on the other episode and learn more about that if you want. But today we're really moving into the next component of a data-informed organization. And this is all around data literacy.
Yes. So this is such an important one. And, as you've already shared, Sarah and you, and when you introduced the data-informed culture concept, we have the 4 components. So data literacy is such a critical one because really it gives everybody that foundational knowledge and common understanding that's important in an organization so that we're all speaking the same language. And when we have organizations complete usually an assessment of the 4 areas, which ones do they want to focus on, data literacy always tends to be the top factor.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it just because, do you have any idea, why?
I think I have my ideas and hypotheses related to that. But I think a lot of it is people just haven't had a lot of formal training around it.
Okay.
For whatever reason, some people, we just shy away from math or we can feel intimidated. And it's not even just the numbers. I think it's the language. You have words like goals, performance measures, objectives, metrics, key performance indicators. And they all kind of mean the same thing, but then they don't. And then you get into more technical terms where you start to talk about your data management systems and then your assessment tools. And they will have sometimes very long names like a DIBELS, which is an educational assessment, And so trying to understand what are all of these terms mean and what's their purpose behind them. And so sometimes you come into an organization and everyone's just speaking that language and we may not all have that common understanding.
Oh, I love it. So just so y'all clear, by the end of this episode, we're going to have one less thing to whine about, and it's going to be around data literacy. So can you give me an exact definition that we use at TCG? No pressure with the word exact, but...
A data literacy basically means that you have the knowledge and understanding of the data terms, the data words, the data tools and systems in your organization. So it's that knowledge and understanding of both the language, but then also what are those resources, tools, and systems that your organization uses to evaluate and assess your organization.
Awesome. So obviously at TCG, we go around and we help organizations with their data. Yeah. So how would we build this specific data muscle? Sarah M and I talked a lot about data is a muscle that you build.
That's
so
right.
How do we build this data literacy muscle?
Yes, and that's exactly how we talk about it with with our clients. And Danae, you're an athlete, right? You were a college D1 athlete. And so
Mhm.
you know that you worked out regularly. And so when you went into the gym or went in for your, workouts, like you had some core muscle there because you regularly used it.
Yep.
It wasn't painful. I don't work out regularly. I'm trying to get back into the rhythm here before the first of the year. And so when I do go into that gym, it's hard. My muscles are hurting because I haven't been flexing and strengthening them. And so we like to talk to our nonprofit friends to say, data literacy is really building that muscle. It's building that data acumen for all of your staff. And so we first will do a training series, and we love to do it with all staff. So it's not just for program team or the data team or the leadership team. We really want everybody to understand what this means in their organization. And so first we'll understand what are some of those just common terms and understanding that I talked about. So what's a goal, what's an outcome, what's an output, and help introduce that language. And then we'll work through them and understanding what are all the data tools and systems at your organization that staff need to know. And then we can do more concentrated trainings by teams that make sense. So if you're in the fundraising department, you still need to know your data,
Right.
as you know, to raise the dollars. And we're going to talk about that later. But if you're the program team, it makes sense differently. And so then we start to scaffold out training and coaching for the different teams.
So it's kind of really like targeted, like you do an overview and a training, and then you get
Mhm.
more specific with each individual and organization.
Absolutely.
And so we kind of really tailor all of that. Well, now that you kind of gave us that overview of how we would do it, do you have like an example or a case study of a client that we've done this with that comes to your mind here?
Yes, yeah. So a couple of them come to mind. And I think too, what one thing that's important for us to understand, which is the whole data informed culture, is it takes time. Anytime
Mhm.
you're trying to change a culture, it doesn't happen overnight. You can start to build in the steps and the foundation and planting the seeds and then watching it grow. And so we have been fortunate to work with some clients over a few number of years to help them walk alongside them and seeing that growth. And so one who comes to mind is Geminis. So they're a multi-service agency in Northwest Indiana, and they have multiple programs that they provide for children and families in the community just outside of Chicago. And they have a Head Start program. They actually have several Head Start programs and over 40 sites, over 300 staff. It's quite a beast. And if anybody works in the Head Start space, data is a thing. It is a federally funded program, and there are a lot of metrics and data that they're having to collect. The organization and leadership was really at an exciting time where they wanted to transition from using data just for compliance, like checklists, which
Mhm.
again, a lot of government programs and any, grant funded programs, there are checklists and that's important and it has its place. But they wanted to move beyond data from compliance to really being the best. And so we helped them by doing that, by training all their staff. It wasn't just leadership and management who really wanted to be able to have the data, and that was important. And we had some concentrated trainings and coaching for their management staff as well. But we did all staff training across all of them. So, first, we got clear, so had the clear metrics,
Yep.
which was a previous episode, and we talked about the importance of that. We made sure that there was clear data access for all the teams. And then we really worked to build data literacy over several years. So we did all staff training with all 300 staff as part of the service, just really understanding the importance of data and breaking it down in a way that resonated with them. And then we did team trainings across all their different teams and departments.
Well, and that's just such a big deal because really everybody's involved in data collection, inputting
That's
data.
absolutely right.
And so connecting it all the way through from leadership all the way down,
That's absolutely right.
if you're on the front line staff, and you know me, practitioner at heart,
Uh-huh.
sometimes you're on that front line, role and you're just like doing your thing. And they're like, you got to fill this stuff out while you do it. And you're like, one more thing to do on my list.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just going to say it.
Right.
And you're like, okay, I'll collect it.
Yeah. Well, and oftentimes the frontline staff, are those are the ones that are quote unquote in the field collecting the data. And we don't always share back with them the data they collect and how it's being used and the impact that it helps us to see in our programs. And so by helping everybody understand their role, what the whole process is of the organization and how we use that really helps build buy-in.
Right.
And now it makes sense that, oh, I need to fill out all of these fields, or I need to get this form completed in this time because it links to this next step in the process. And we can't, meet the needs of our clients, or we can't apply for this next funding source if we don't have this completed.
Right. It gives that overview and that bigger picture of the why behind what you're doing. And it really does. I mean, truly. And I even think for me with like data literacy, just in the last few years,
Yeah.
I'm rolling into my 4th year here at TCG. And, I think that's one of the biggest things that has helped me. And even as you said it just now, like, talking, it is the time factor, right? It's the repetition of really reviewing data, seeing it from
Right.
some of our data team who put it together and gives
Yeah.
it to me, and really like defining those things. And I think a recent project that I'm working on, I was reviewing some of their data reports.
Yes.
And I was like, I don't know what these terms mean.
Mhm.
Like they didn't have anything going with it,
Right.
where I worked with a similar organization in another state,
Mhm.
and we had an entire sheet,
Yeah.
right, of like
Mhm.
definitions
Yep, absolutely.
around all of that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's what we're talking about
That's
too. One of
that's
them.
absolutely. It's sometimes you need to have a glossary or data definitions to go alongside that. And again, I think a lot of nonprofits, because, you're so busy doing the important work. And so then we just only do the data or look at the data when we have to submit a report.
Right.
And so again, it's like me, you're not going to the gym as often and regularly. You're not in your data as often and regularly. And so then it's like, okay, wait a minute. What does this tool say? What does this mean? It takes a lot like more time because I'm not in there on the regular, and I don't have just that go-to knowledge because we're not using it as often. And so data informed organizations, the staff and the team are in there regularly, and there's that common knowledge and understanding. And so it doesn't take so much time.
Yeah. And like, we were looking at that data to really help make decisions around marketing and communications. That's the way we were. So it was program data,
Right.
and it was, agency wide,
Yes.
like data that they were using. And I was trying to look at it from the lens of a customer engagement and
Mhm.
service, engagement for them, because they're wanting to increase certain programs
Right.
enrollment and uptake, right?
Mhm.
And so I was just looking at the reports, and I just kept thinking, like, I need more information around some of this. And I'm going to pat myself on the back a little bit on that one.
Yeah.
So I was like, look at me.
Asking the
I'm
questions.
asking questions.
Yeah, getting
Yeah.
more information.
Yep.
And I think what was exciting going back to Geminis is then, the light bulbs clicked on for them. They didn't see it anymore as a chore. They were excited about it and more looking forward to it. And it helps the management team get it because they're not having to nag, on staff to complete things. Or now everybody's on the same page. Now there's this, again, consensus and excitement of we're working towards these goals because we have those clear metrics. We're getting access to the data now. So by site, across all of their, Head Start locations,
Right.
they were able to see where their kids were at in a more real-time way because we built a beautiful dashboard, which you don't always have to have, but everybody loves a good dashboard. But even that, we had, other reports that they could get access to. And so then they could track and say, okay, let's, pivot here. We are making progress here. And so it just pulled everybody together.
Yeah, and made those decisions. Well, and I think, as we're talking right now about data literacy, I mean, and like you said in the beginning of the data informed was clear metrics. We're not just collecting data to collect data anymore.
Right.
We're not collecting an obscene amount even. We're trying to really focus in and say what is really important, and then let's learn the terms
Exactly.
around that. So,
and it doesn't have to happen in that order. I think with our data informed organization, it's not a linear process. All 4 of these components happen at the same time and are all important.
yeah, and well, in the assessment phase that we do with this, like they come up different, right? Like some organizations have
prioritize where they're at and where their needs are.
And so literally data literacy could be number one for this organization, or access could be another one, depending on where you guys like assess yourself.
Absolutely.
So, well, that's great. Well, Amanda, as we think through our wine recap, and we have talked about data literacy here,
Yeah.
and just like in the simplest terms that it is, it's like that knowledge and understanding of data, right? Your terms and your systems and the tools that you use within your organization.
That's absolutely right. See?
Okay. Look at me.
that.
I
You're
know.
already like promoting it. You got the stump speech down.
I know. So if there was one takeaway though for our viewers and our listeners here for the podcast, like what would you want them to take away from this episode?
So I would want them to invest in training all their staff on understanding data and what it means at your organization. Make it really clear and explicit. have it be a part of your orientation process or have it be a part of onboarding or any type of training that all staff understand what are the clear data terms and data metrics that are important at your organization and the systems and tools that they have.
All right. Well, there you heard it from, the original TCG president, owner, and founder with all the knowledge and information we could all ever want. So go out and start talking to your team and really thinking about how you're going to embed data literacy and really the data informed culture overall into your organization. So
Absolutely.
well, we're going to wrap this up. And so, really, as always, we'll have more details in the show notes that you can read and review, and we'll link blogs and all kinds of different resources for you. Subscribe to our newsletter and follow along on social media. Up next is the last and final component of our data-informed organization, and that will be about leadership buy-in, and then we'll wrap up that little mini series. And so I'm excited to be back here for that episode. In the meantime, cheers to you and the important work that you guys are all doing out transforming the world.